What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Jeff Rosado, and I'm back at it again with another Sorcery gameplay video. So for starters, Happy New Year's everyone. I hope you've had cherishable moments with your friends and family, and I hope that you guys are having a great week. So getting right on into it, we have finally Alexander's Beast Tribal deck against a deck that I actually haven't showcased in a gameplay before, the Enchantress Control Deck. Now, Alexander's deck is, well, a beast. It's a really sweet deck. It's a mid-range deck that is almost like a toolbox deck. It uses common sense and assorted animals to search out beasts that are necessary for the right situation, and those beasts are really sweet. The small lethal minions that he has in his deck, don't underestimate them. They can go a long way with damage, and the lethal is highly relevant when it comes to fighting off powerful minions. That being said, the Enchantress Control Deck doesn't really play that many minions. In fact, its strategy is around turning its auras into minions and trying to dish out damage as often as it can. Now, the Enchantress deck, I would say, is the most advanced deck to play in Sorcery. I think it's because the auras themselves, they have like their own rulebook and their own technicalities on how to play them. And if you don't play them correctly, the auras can actually destroy themselves with their powerful effects. So you have to be able to control the board state and know when's a good time to utilize these auras at their most optimized. We go ahead and roll here. We matched with a 1, but then I won the second die roll. So I will be on the play here this game. If you guys have any suggestions for other deck techs or things that I could be doing differently, feel free to comment down on the videos. I like to hear what you guys have to say. I actually found out not too long ago that I need to make a few edits to my other decks, and you know, we're all still learning, and as the game progresses, it's probably going to come out with more powerful cards and more powerful interactions, or at least I'm hoping so. See, the Enchantress deck is, it feels like it's missing something. You know, it's really hard to fit an aggro deck and a control deck and merge them together to work properly. However, the list that I have today, and I'll leave a deck list in the comment section, and yeah, the deck list that I have, I feel like I have it just right. So starting off the game here, I played an Oasis on my first turn. Alexander plays a Sight and then plays a Porcupine Pufferfish. There goes those one-drop lethals that I was referring to. You can get pretty out of hand if you're not paying attention to them. If you over or underestimate them, it might come and bite you in the butt. So, play another Sight. Not much action happening with me. Another issue with the Enchantress deck is that it takes a while for it to play auras. Just cost so much mana, and you want them at high mana because you want them to have higher attack points when you make them minions. So it's nice to have that fair balance. Alexander plays Polar Bears here, and then passing the turn to me. Let's see what we got here. I'm gonna tap my Enchantress, play a Dark Tower. That's unfortunately not going to get its ability off because Alexander has Smokestacks of Gnaak, an extremely powerful Sight. Basically, any Sight that is nearby the Smokestacks loses its ability, so I won't generate an extra mana from the Gothic Tower. Would have been nice. Alexander is, I believe, going to play another Sight. He does. He plays an Aqueduct, generating 3 mana. Pufferfish is going to swing in for 1 damage, and then the Polar Bears, with its ability, is going to swing on the other side, dealing 2 damage to me. Now, it's a pretty tough spot for me, but with my experience, I think that I can recover from this. So I'm going to prioritize drawing a site here. Let's have my Enchantress. And now I play the actual Dark Tower. Now the best part is that I actually gained extra mana because it's away from the Smokestacks, and then bam, I was able to cast a Poison Nova this turn, getting rid of the Porcupine Pufferfish and the Polar Bears that was nearby me. It's pretty sweet because if I didn't have that card, Alexander would have been able to dish out a bunch of damage to me early in the game, and that's a big weakness for Enchantress. Alexander's going to play a Ruins here, and then just pass right on, gain some advantage there by giving myself some breathing room. And now I think I'm in a good position here, because now I can ramp up my mana. I'm going to play a Floodplains, won't unfortunately be able to use it, but I can use it for the mana for this Abundance. Abundance is really strong, essentially giving me an extra 4 mana. And now I can play a Wildfire. So it was a pretty sweet turn, playing 2 powerful auras right off the bat. And then yeah, as long as I can just stabilize and draw more spells, I will guarantee that I will have something to cast, and then I can utilize my Enchantress's ability to make these auras very powerful minions. So at the end phase, Wildfire is just going to move up a space. Wildfire only occupies one site at a time, but at the end phase of each player's turn, it deals 3 damage to every unit at that location, and then it moves 1 space, so long as it hasn't been a space that it's visited before. So we have the little burn tokens there to identify that. Alexander playing Sinkhole. Boo. Card is awful. But I think we're in at least a decent seat. Even if he does use the Sinkhole to blow up one of our sites, the Abundance there is just going to generate us more mana regardless. And of course he's just going to use it. Just seems like the right thing to do, right? So our sites are destroyed, we make rubble. And a little fun fact, you don't want to try and miss any triggers on your auras. You want to try to play the game as it was intended to. So I actually left the little burn token on top of my deck, so that way before I drew a card for my turn, I knew that I had to move it at Alexander's end phase, which is exactly what I do here. I'm just going to move it to the Ruins. And yeah, I think we're going to tap the Enchantress here. I drew a spell for turn, and using the Enchantress to draw a site off the ability. It's pretty sweet. Can't play a site this turn, but that is alright. I have enough mana here. I have 7 mana. Use 4 of it to cast another Wildfire, activating Enchantress's ability to animate the first Wildfire in play, making it a minion. And now I just try to aggro as best as I can. I cast an Amethyst Core, also using Enchantress's ability to make Abundance a minion. So certain auras, if they're occupying multiple sites, when they're treated as minions, they're treated as a minion that occupies all those sites. For this situation, it turned out to be okay for me because I moved the Abundance to dish out 5 damage. I used the Wildfire to also dish out another 4 damage. However, here is a drawback. At the end phase of the turn, Wildfire does have to deal 3 damage to everything at that site. Wildfire and Abundance are going to take 4 damage, or 3 damage, sorry. But thankfully they live. But if another minion blocked either of them, and that Wildfire activated, more than likely my aura would have died. Using the other Wildfire to move, it can get a little complicated when you have multiple Wildfires in play, so here's a neat little thing to not get confused. Keep some of the burn tokens upside down to represent one Wildfire, and then keep the other ones right side up to represent the first. So another drawback here as well is that the Abundance is now occupying 2 of Alexander's sites, which is unfortunate because that means that he gains the benefit on Abundance. So right here, he's making a pretty mean play. He's going to play the color out of space, and he plays it right where the Abundance is, so now 3 of his sites are going to gain extra mana. It's a risky play I had to do, but in order for me to dish out that 5 damage, there was no other spot I could move. However, I planned ahead and I made sure that I didn't play a site on that rubble. See, because I was hoping Alexander would play his site on that rubble spot, and I'm glad he did. So now I'll explain that thoroughly. So at the end phase, my first Wildfire is going to move, going right to the zone where his avatar is, which is perfect. That's exactly where I want it. And now deciding where I'm going to put the other Wildfire, I'll leave it there. And yeah, I gotta get the little token. Gotta make sure we don't lose track here. So everything is going to go ahead and untap. Alexander did play a Hounds of Ondaros, and it's like right next to our Enchantress, which is pretty threatening. So the best thing I can do with this board state is try to, be as aggressive as I possibly can. So just thinking here on what to do next. I'm pretty sure this is a sweet turn too. So I'm gonna tap the Enchantress. Sorry, I guess I was really thinking hard on this turn. So I'll play a Lighthouse on the Hounds of Ondaros, just getting it out of the void. I don't think I have an answer for it. The only thing I can think of that can kill it would be... actually no, I remember which turn this is. This is crazy. So I cast Lightning Bolt targeting his avatar, and I use Enchantress to make Abundance a minion. Wildfire is not a minion nor a unit, so Lightning Bolt has no choice but to hit the avatar. Now I use the Abundance to move back to my sites, targeting his color out of space as the target for my attack. So now attacking that site, dishing out 5 damage, but also simultaneously getting the Abundance closer to my sites so it can provide me more mana. You see, like, you have to think like multiple turns ahead with this deck, and you have to be very, extremely careful with your placement. Like, it's not even a joke. Like, this deck can be very technical. So from here, I just go to my end phase. The Wildfire is just going to dish out the remainder 3 damage to Alexander, putting him on death's door, and that's what we wanted right there. We wanted to just try to dish out as much damage as we could with our powerful auras, and using their abilities also to dish out damage as best as we can. Or in this sense, Wildfire's ability. So now we're in a pretty good spot. Alexander's on death's door. These Hounds of Ondaros can deal damage to us, but we're so far ahead on life, it's not too threatening. And on top of that, the Abundance is back on our side. Yeah, his color out of space will generate 2 mana, but our sites will be able to produce an extra mana each. So that's giving me 6 mana just with the Abundance alone. And my other 2 sites, I have 8 mana total. So Alexander just checking graveyards, kind of hinting that he might have a Boneyard. Usually people ask what's in your graveyard. They want to check what cards you've used or what cards are available for graveyard shenanigans. So here, I just imagine Alexander playing a Boneyard, trying to gain as much advantage maybe. Thinking long and hard here. This was a tough game. I mean, you really want to take your time when you're playing advanced decks like these, or, for Enchantress's sake, it's very advanced. Yeah, Alexander playing the Boneyard. Unfortunately, I have no minions in my graveyard, so he will gain the benefit of the Boneyard, summoning a dead porcupine fish to the Boneyard, and that's pretty good. Kind of glad I didn't have an answer to the Hounds of Ondaros, because if he would have just played the Boneyard, he would have gotten it back. Speaking of which, he uses the Hounds to dish out 4 damage to us, putting us at 13. And he's going to pass. I'm going to use my Wildfire to move. And I believe this is like the perfect position that we want to be in here. So I had a Lightning Bolt. Even if I didn't have a Lightning Bolt, any spell that I would have drawn could have made the Wildfire a minion, and the Wildfire could have directly attacked his avatar. So I actually had a few ways of dishing out lethal there. I think that was actually the fastest game I've had with Enchantress, and that was like really explosive. Having the abundance to generate mana and then using the Wildfire to dish out extra damage was just crucial. I was trying to showcase you can maximize damage with Wildfire. If you make it a minion and attack with it, you can dish out 4 damage. And then at the end phase with his ability, you can use the extra 3 damage to possibly dish out 7 damage to your opponent. It is hard to get it that way because if, like for example, if I made the Wildfire a minion and I attacked his avatar directly, the avatar will deal 1 damage to a Wildfire, which means that at the end phase, the Wildfire will unfortunately kill itself, because it only has 3 toughness left and the damage will destroy it. So, you know, that's something to keep in mind as well. Gosh, there's so many interactions with this deck that you have to pay attention to. So for example, Abundance. If I had Abundance on 3 sites, and if one of those sites were the Void, then there's an unfortunate chance that if I make the Abundance a minion, the Abundance will be a part of the Void since it occupies those 4 locations, and it will die. So those are like big crucial things that you have to note, and they don't tell you this in the rulebook. Experience teaches you this, and technicalities, I guess. But I've been playing this deck for a while. I've made a billion mistakes with this deck, and because of that, I was able to learn how to optimize its strategy the best way it possibly can. So, before I was playing Simulacrum, I was playing Fate, Changeling, and you know, there was just like a whole bunch of things that were a part of this deck that no longer aren't. I decided that Deep-Sea Mermaids was a good card to actually have in this deck. See, because Enchantress needs spells in order for you to animate your auras, correct? If you run out of cards in your hand, and if you're only drawing 1 spell per turn, that only means you can only animate 1 aura per turn. So, having more cards in your hand allow you to make multiple auras minions, giving you a bigger advantage of swinging for more damage. So cards like Apprentice Wizard, Grandmaster Wizard, and Deep-Sea Mermaids are all cards that you can cast that can animate auras, but then they also draw you more cards. So that allows you to possibly use that card that you drew off the ability to make another aura a minion. Again, these are things that the rulebook doesn't teach you. This is only things that you learn from experience, and that's why I say that this deck is so advanced. You have to be an advanced level player in order to optimize this strategy. And if you're not careful, you can accidentally have your auras destroy themselves. And that's not what you want to do. Unfortunately, I actually do that this game, so I can show you guys a big mistake that I made here. Alexander's going to take his first turn, playing a Pit Vipers. I mean, again, those 1-drop lethals are just crazy. Thankfully, I had something other than a sight this turn. I mean, I'm gaining the ability of the sight this turn. I'm able to look at the top 3 cards of my deck thanks to my Observatory, and I can put them back in any order. Gives me a glimpse into the future, so I can plan out my turns. And again, that's what you want to do with the Enchantress deck. You want to plan out your turns as much as you possibly can. And gaining information on the next cards you're going to draw just helps you do that. Alexander, I think, is debating if he wants to draw a sight or a spell. you should always do that. Just don't rush into drawing a card. Like, pay attention to like what you absolutely need at that moment. And turn 2 Smokestacks, are you kidding me? Turn 1 lethal and then turn 2 Smokestacks. It's just crazy. But this was actually insane here. He plays a Sacred Scarabs, and I actually think it would have been smarter to play it on the Smokestacks, because again, my turn's insane right here. Like, I actually take a big leap of faith here. Alright, so I'm going to cast a Ruby Core using the Lightning Bolt to attempt to target. I did want to actually hit the Sacred Scarabs, because the thing is yeah, I can hit the Avatar, dish out 3 damage, but just what if this Lightning Bolt happened to hit the Sacred Scarabs and destroy it? Well, because of Sacred Scarab's Death Rat ability, if it dies, it dishes out 4 damage to everything at that site. So taking a leap of faith.
Yes, let's go, dude!
Yo. That's card games at its finest, man. Oh my gosh. Wow. I mean, honestly, I would have just been happy with it hitting the Avatar, but man, it hit the Sacred Scarab, so awesome. We were able to use the Lightning Bolt, not only destroying a minion, but also dishing out more damage than we would have if it hit their Avatar. So Alexander's going to take his turn, swinging 1 damage with the Pit Viper, making another Pit Viper. Very unfortunate. So those Pit Vipers are going to start dishing out a bunch of damage if I don't handle them soon. Alexander playing the Smokestacks like kind of ruins my towers. See, I need them for mana, and I also need to put them as forward as I can. But as you can see here, I do have a tower, and I unfortunately had to play it a little bit closer to the Smokestacks. I think it was because because I had a core. Awful camera angle. I thought I misplayed for a sec. So I had exactly 4 mana, so I could play the Wildfire. So gaining the extra mana from the tower wouldn't have really done me any damage or justice. And here, I make the biggest play ever. I move the Wildfire at the end phase to the site all the way on my right. And yeah, I'm hoping that Alexander will just fall for my trap and play a site right in front of it. So then that way at the end phase, my Wildfire can move. To be honest, this is the biggest misplay you can make. I shouldn't have done that. So he plays the Ruins literally on the opposite side, foiling my strategy, and swinging in for 1 with the Pit Viper. Unfortunately, the end phase is going to happen. The Wildfire is going to diminish because it has to move to a site it hasn't visited before, and unfortunately there are none. See, what would have been smarter if I just moved the Wildfire forward. I'll be honest, this was a really big misplay on my behalf. I was just trying to be cute with it, and I just wasted a Wildfire. So it's alright. I'm going to take my turn. I'm actually going to use the Enchantress to slam right into those Vipers. I do lose 1 life, but at least I don't have to worry about the lethal. Avatars do not take lethal damage or anything, so no worries there. And then I'm just gonna cast the Flood and pass my turn. So Flood floods the sites that it's occupying, and Flood does not mean submerge. What Flood means is that the sites that it's on now become water sites. This is huge because I have cards like Stormy Seas, and at one point I was even playing Drown. So having my opponent's sites as water sites means that I can forcefully submerge their minions as more efficiently as I can. I do think I need to prioritize a site because I need that Flood to become a minion, and I need it to be on all 4 sites. Otherwise, if it were made a minion in that void, it would be treated as if being in the void, and then it would die. And I don't want that. So here, you can play a Deep-Sea Mermaids, triggering the Enchantress's ability to make flood a minion. And the Deep-Sea Mermaids actually lets us draw from the bottom of our deck. That's really sweet. There's actually neat interaction with there because you can mulligan cards and place them on the bottom of your deck in a certain order. So that way you even know what cards lie at the bottom of your deck too. And also, even if you don't know what's at the bottom of your deck, it's similar to Apprentice Wizard. Just drawing a random card is just sweet, and it might benefit your chances nevertheless. Card advantage is card advantage. So here to flood, just slammed right into the land surveyors. I'm gonna pass a turn. My flood is still a minion, so there is a chance that Alexander could have an answer for it. He's gonna play a Sinkhole. And unfortunately, the Sinkhole is away from the Smokestacks, so he can use the Sinkhole, and of course he is, because why not? He's gonna go ahead and destroy my tower, aiming for my air threshold there. And then he played a Panorama Mana Core. That thing is a beast. It has Airborne, it has Lethal, and it has the ability to untap itself under certain conditions at the end phase. It's a really crazy card. So, trying to think of what my best option is because, I mean, that Mana Core is going to just get out of hand. I know that's one of his strongest minions in his deck. So, tap the Enchantress to draw a sight. Counting up my mana here. We just have 4. And yeah, so here's the play that I was getting at. Stormy Seas, because I flooded his Smokestacks of Gnaak, is now a water site. So I was able to forcefully submerge that Panorama Mana Core, and there we go. Had an answer for it. Stormy Seas is really sweet in this deck. It's literally cave-in, but for water sites. You can submerge artifacts, you can submerge weapons, you can submerge minions, and yeah, this is just really strong. Now, I didn't make the Flood a minion because since it's still occupying the Smokestacks of Gnaak, the Stormy Seas, since it's being cast, would actually submerge the Flood. So I had to just skip the turn on animating my Flood, which is alright. That's the name of the game. Sometimes you have to make certain decisions to pace the flow of the game. Alexander is actually going to use his avatar to draw a spell. And man, another beast. He has Hillock Basilisk. And that's crazy. If I made Flood a minion, Hillock Basilisk would have disabled the Flood. And actually, even now, if I make it a minion, the Flood I mean, it will be disabled. So, yet again, another powerful beast. I'm looking too great, but I'm going to try my best to get over this. I'm going to play my Smokestacks of Gnaak. So now, just our entire sites, the majority of them are just not going to get their abilities off. I'm going to move the Deep-Sea Mermaids to the rubble. And now, I use a Poison Nova. I use my Enchantress as the spellcaster to dish out 1 damage to everything that's nearby it. And since it has lethal, all minions that receive that damage will die. Did not make Flood a minion. Again, don't want it to die from my own cards, so I have to be very cautious and very careful. Now, I put a dice on top of my deck, and that is only just so I know which card I'm going to prioritize for my draw. These neat little interactions can help you in further gameplay, so definitely give them a try. Again, you want to try to not make any mistakes when playing your own deck. You want to be able to optimize it as best as you can. So having friendly reminders like that definitely go a long way. Alexander playing a Color Out of Space. Now, he is a 4-element deck, so by me having the Flood, I did give him extra water threshold. Not mana. Of course, threshold and mana are 2 separate things. But with his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana, he's going to use Assorted Animals to search out some beasts. It looks like he's only just going to play it for 2 and go for 2 pufferfish. Now, he could have gone for pit vipers, but the pufferfish makes sense because it has submerge, and just in case if I had any cards to submerge them, they would survive. Another thing too, that's another reason why I play Deep-Sea Mermaids, is because it also has submerge. So if at any point, if any of my minions get submerged, the Deep-Sea Mermaids will at least survive. So now Alexander is going to play out his hand. He's going to play a Polar Bears and a Porcupine Pufferfish. See, if I had more minions for Alexander to interact with, his deck would be doing phenomenal at the moment. But because I have these auras that, you know, can do stuff like this, I play a Silence, and now his Polar Bears and his Pufferfish lose their abilities. So now I don't have to worry about the lethal. I play an Aquamarine Core, and I'm pretty sure I made the Flood a minion off of Enchantress. And then yeah, I'm just going to use the Flood to stay right where it is, and I'm going to take out that Pufferfish. I don't have to worry about the lethal anymore because Silence stopped that. I'm using Deep-Sea Mermaids to also land 1 point of damage at his site. And now we're good. That Polar Bears, it's not going to activate its ability because Silence is there. And it's a good and bad thing though that I played the Silence there, mainly because I negated 2 of his minions' abilities. But now the site that is next to his avatar, the one on the right, there's nothing there, rather. So if he plays a site there, I will be permitted or tempted to make Silence a minion. But because there is a void there, I can't make Silence a minion. So right now he kind of has the Silence a little locked, but at the same time, it is good because we're still gonna try our best to swing out here. I also kind of forgot, and you can't see it on the camera, but we knew that when I made the Flood a minion, its effect is negated because of Silence, so it's just a 4/4 aura. But I didn't want to remove the Flood tokens and then put them back on the field, so I just left them there. Just note for that turn, the Flood did not flood the Smokestacks or the rooms. Not that it really matters all too much. I'm going to take my turn. Flood is an aura now, so those sites would be flooded at this moment. Alexander has 2 minions occupying the site that my Deep-Sea Mermaids is at. It's problematic. I'm going to count up my mana here, make sure everything's good. And I'm going to also try to pay attention to the Smokestacks. So right there, I play a Summer River, and that's great because it's right out of the zone of both of our Smokestacks. I can look at the top part of my deck. I believe I put it on top. We're just debating here. I was going to use the Deep-Sea Mermaids to attack a Pufferfish, but Alexander blocked with Land Surveyor and kept the Pufferfish out of combat. In a situation like that, you can choose to keep the Pufferfish or any other minion in combat, even if it's being attacked. But you can also dictate whether or not if it's protected from your Intercept or not. So yeah, the Land Surveyor just blocking Deep-Sea Mermaids. Very unfortunate. And it's huge because if I make Flood a minion and try to attack, the Pufferfish does have lethal. Although, actually, the Silence is there, so if the Pufferfish moved to a certain site, it would lose its lethal ability. But still, just trying to play as cautiously as I can. I'm going to play a Deep-Sea Mermaids here. I'm going to draw the bottom spell. I think I was just going over a neat interaction with the River and the Deep-Sea Mermaids. See, because with the River, you can look at the top card of your spellbook, choose to put it on top or bottom. And if you put it on bottom, that's pretty sweet, because now you know what's on the bottom, and you have a guarantee to draw from your top. So playing the Deep-Sea Mermaids drew me the card on the bottom. Speaking of which, I'm going to go ahead and just do the same thing. Play another Deep-Sea Mermaid, draw the bottom card of my deck. I'm going to use an Amethyst Core here. going to make Flood a minion, and I'm going to go ahead and attack. And see, unfortunately, if I just left the Flood right where it was, even if he used the Pufferfish to block, I wouldn't have to worry about the lethal. I think I just honestly just wanted to attack the Pufferfish and just get it out the way. So I sacrificed the Flood to get rid of that minion. It's very unfortunate, but we have to do what we gotta do here. Alexander's going to draw a spell. Taps his avatar. Plays a Sinkhole. I hate Sinkhole, but I love it at the same time. Okay. Alexander is going to play another bear. Tough choices. Silence is just in a good spot. Not a good spot to be animated, but a good spot in preventing those polar bears from coming to the other side of my field. It's going to use the Sinkhole to destroy my site. It's as if I saw that coming. So I'm going to untap here, draw side, tap the Enchantress, going to play a Lighthouse, worked out in our favor. He destroyed our Lighthouse, but we ended up just drawing another one, putting us back at where we were. Unfortunately, we did lose the extra mana this turn, but it's alright though. Great play here by yours truly. I play a great old one, permanently flooding the realm. So that means any Stormy Seas that I draw is going to be really relevant. And even the Void is flooded, so if he plays a site on any of the Void zones, then it will still gain its water threshold, thus making it an island. But what that means is now that if he plays a site on the Void, essentially it's still going to be flooded. So that helps my deck out tremendously. If I draw any Stormy Seas, just everything is free game. I don't have to worry about a site not being a water site. Alexander's going to play a tower. Away from our smokestacks, so he gains the mana from it. Yeah, our strategy is just to try and dish out as much damage as we can with this great old one. And if we're lucky, we might be able to put him on death's door with one shot. So he's going to play Browse, look at the top 7 cards of his deck, and of course pick a card to go into his hand. Another neat little interaction, if you play Browse and Deep-Sea Mermaids, you can put the cards back on the bottom of your deck in any order, so that way the Deep-Sea Mermaids can draw you the cards placed on the bottom. I'm really starting to like Deep-Sea Mermaids. I think that it was a missing link for this deck, and it has just so many cool interactions with it, so I'm really starting to vibe with it, and they put in a lot of work these few games. Alexander's going to play Hounds of Andaros. That's awful. And that card just has everything. It has Airborne, Submerge, Burrow, and Voidwalk. It's, I think, the only minion that I can't submerge in his deck. I mean, next to the Pufferfish, of course, but still, some pretty mean stuff here. He's going to use his Polar Bears to dish out 2 damage. I'm not going to block. I just don't think that it's the right play. However, this one I might block. Oh no, I actually just take the 2 damage. So we just take a few bites out of those polar bears and we're gonna take our turn. So I think Alexander, I mean, honestly, no matter how you looked at it, the Great Old One was in a perfect position to attack any site. Thus doing so, I'm going to go ahead and swing at his site there, dishing him 16 damage. The silence is negating its ability for Submerge, but that's quite alright. It's not going to matter all that much. I'm going to move my Enchantress as close as I can to his avatar. With all luck, I might be able to just end the game with my avatar. Sweet, so I'm going to cast an Apprentice Wizard, drawing a spell. Play another Apprentice Wizard, drawing a spell. And you see, that's another cool thing about this Enchantress deck. Right now, there aren't enough auras for these colors that really optimize this deck, or at least that I know of. So having another battle strategy with these small minions like really pay off. Of course, Great Old One paid off completely because, I mean, dealing out 16 damage in that moment, I mean, it closed out the game as quickly as it could, right? And that's what it wants to do. But having these small minions to draw us cards and also block other minions is very ideal. Alexander's going to play Amethyst Core, and he's going to be thinking hard on this one. This board is just absolutely ridiculous. There's lots of cards everywhere, and there's lots of angles that are being played here. See, because his Hounds of Undaros can attack diagonally, can attack one of my sites, and it's getting pretty close. He's actually using his Sorcerer to draw a spell. It's pretty rough because I think he needed to play a site to try and get away from damage. He's going to use the Polar Bears to attack my Enchantress again. I'm just going to take it. Okay, this one I can afford to block, so I went and sacrificed the Deep-Sea Mermaids to block the second Polar Bears. Hounds of Undaros is going to dish out 4 damage by attacking our site. And yeah, unfortunately for Alexander, he just did not have the right cards at the right situation. His mini beasts were very formidable, and of course the Hounds of Undaros was very good at dishing out damage. However, I used the Enchantress to deal damage to his avatar, and that is going to be the end of the game. So yeah, that was a best 2 out of 3, and the Enchantress took it 2-0. I'm sure that there were tons of things we could have done differently in those games. For starters, I can just notate that me playing the Wildfire in the wrong site at the end phase was a very bad decision, but ultimately, for what the games were worth, the first game I was able to close out the game as best as I could. The second game I was able to pace and get card advantage, but as you saw, it took quite a bit of time for me to close out that game. If it wasn't for Great Old One though, I mean, again, like, that damage like went a long ways. If I didn't have the Great Old One, who knows how long it would have taken me to dish out those 14 damage. But yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this gameplay. I certainly had a blast playing Alexander's deck, and I certainly had a blast actually playing this Enchantress deck correctly. But yeah, if you guys want to see more gameplay videos, and if you guys want to see more deck builds, definitely comment down below. Let me know what you think about what I could be doing differently to make this channel better. And yeah, as always, I appreciate the support. Again, guys, Happy New Year's, and look forward to great things on this upcoming year. And without further ado, I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Bye.